a trafficking scheme in my community, and I live in the Midwest in a suburban area. And I learned that a family had a nanny that turned out to be a sociopath, and she was trafficking their young children while the parents were away at work. So the children did not disappear. They were being violated while the parents were away at work.
The Ms. Texas Show is a voice of hope for victims, survivors, advocates, and community leaders against gender-based violence to share their stories and resources. We began showcasing life in Texas. Today we are impacting lives not only in Texas, but also around the world. Under our segment Military Time, we run this segment in partnership with the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce. We invite military and veterans who have overcome traumatic events to share their experiences during and after their military service. Under our beauty segment, we invite fellow pageant winners and contestants, artists, musicians, actors, models, and dancers, and last but not least, our survivor leaders from family violence, sex trafficking, sexual assault, stalking, and other traumatic events who are ambassadors for these causes to share their lives and the impact they have made. To become a guest on our show, email us at MsUSATexas@gmail.com. If you would like to support victims and survivors of gender-based violence, make a tax-deductible donation to Hope Pyx Global at www.hopepyxglobal.org.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Ms. Texas Show. Today we are going to talk about a lot of interesting topics, from financial crimes, from human trafficking, from trauma recovery, from slavery, and more. And most importantly, we have our special guest here today, Rosie Cataldo. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Eileen. It's such a privilege to be here with you today.
Well, Rosie, I want to thank you for the great work that you do. When you and I met, I was just like totally smitten by, the fact how passionate that you have become. And from the simple fact that you learned about the incident of how it happened, in our community. And as we, more and more people are becoming aware of the term human trafficking, but some of them might still be under the impression that it's happening overseas. It's never going to happen to my children, never going to happen in my neighborhood, in my backyard. So can you tell us, our audience, a little bit more about, what you have observed and what is out there so that they can be aware of?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So what prompted a complete shift in my focus and my career in coming from a background in media relations with our central bank and then shifting towards counter human trafficking, the reason being about almost 6 years ago, I learned about a trafficking scheme in my community, and I live in the Midwest in a suburban area. And I learned that a family had a nanny that turned out to be a sociopath, and she was trafficking their young children while the parents were away at work. So the children did not disappear. They were being violated while the parents were away at work. So this is a very sophisticated scheme. It's a very well-oiled machine, if you will. And I feel like as my indoctrination into child sex trafficking, I found out about it in a very too close to home way, and a very, very, very dark a dark scheme that it's tough to look at. It takes, most people don't want to talk about it. I was pretty stunned and I couldn't sleep and just wanted to educate myself and learn what I could do as a civilian, as a parent. I really thought, I know a lot of people feel this way. I thought, what can I do? I'm not a police officer. I am not a lawyer. What on earth can I do? And I found out there are limitless ways to come alongside this issue, no matter who you are, no matter what your background is, no matter what your skill set is. There are so many ways to intervene and protect kids and advocate for human rights. So I began going to our state's human trafficking task force meetings to educate myself. And I began talking to trauma specialists and investigators and people in the judicial system just to learn. And I was very inspired. I met so many people like you, Eileen, who have been through, who have overcome tremendous obstacles and seriously traumatic and life-threatening situations, and using all of those experiences, not only overcoming them, but then using them to help others. And that was just a beautiful experience for me to see all these people and meet all these people. And it gave me a lot of hope for change, to change the tide.
That's amazing. I think it is because passionate people of yourself, that we are strengthening our team. And I see that today, when I say our team, it's our team at large, right? It's like from first responders to medical providers, to task forces, law enforcement, psychologists, therapists, and etc. But our team is growing. Unfortunately, they are also, using the technology and everything, which we will dive into later. And you pretty much, talked a little bit about your background, about how you started from a completely different industry, from media relations, and now to this. So now tell us what you do now. Like you mentioned to me earlier about trauma healing and different things. Tell us more about all the good things you're doing.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm very passionate about prevention education for youth. So I have my own LLC, and I deliver prevention education to schools. I have a curriculum designed for teens, specifically for exploitation, and empowering them to understand what it is, what it looks like, and how to recognize and avoid it, and how to help their peers if they're in a situation that looks like it could be potentially dangerous, or if they're at risk. And so in addition to prevention education, I deliver human trafficking interdiction trainings to a variety of groups, from child safety councils at the county level to Georgetown graduate students in a criminal justice class. So I love the variety. I love all the people I get to meet, and I really gives me a lot of hope when people are curious about this. And then lastly, but actually my favorite aspect, is trauma healing. So I have learned a trauma healing modality for helping people who, a range of people suffering from PTSD, if it's related to primary trauma or secondary trauma. For example, the advocates and the trauma specialists and the first responders who take on a lot of secondary trauma, it can take its toll. So I work with individuals, and because of the remarkable transformations I've seen with people I've worked directly with, I began training survivor advocates or survivor leaders. So telling them, about what I do and the modalities that I use and the case studies, the transformations I've seen, and then also helping them in this space and helping them take care of themselves and assessing their own, mind, body, spirit, and balancing out their physical needs, their emotional needs, their psychological needs, and making sure they're keeping themselves in a good space, and recognizing when they're overtaxed, particularly if it's a tough case. And some of these cases are very dark, can be very, make it hard to sleep. And so just having them recognize when they get to a certain point of dysregulation and how to help regulate themselves. So I love that. I feel like learning that gives me longevity in this space because I'm I'm an empathetic person. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's when you hear a description of cases or read things, you actually get a visceral response in your body. So, for example, when I was first learning about what happened in my community to the children who were horrifically abused by the in-home nanny, I I couldn't sleep and I felt like I wanted to vomit. So it was affecting me in many, many ways. So talking to people about it, learning solutions, learning how to recognize what was happening in my own body, learning how to regulate my own nervous system and moving forward to do something once that regulation was achieved. So just learning from what my own experiences and helping other people navigate that as well. And
Well,
and for people who are newer to this space and just learning about it, I would just encouragement is the fact that you don't need to know all the dark details about cases in order to do something. It's not necessary. You just need to know that it is indeed a problem. It's not overseas. It is here. It's in our communities. And for people who are really wondering what to do, you don't have to go and start your own nonprofit to do something. The biggest way alongside this issue is, in my opinion, number one is being an active and engaged parent. So being available to your kids. Kids need a support system and feel have a safe place in order to grow and thrive and to become, people of service and functioning members of society, self-sustaining. So if youth don't have that, the rest of us then play cleanup for people who have been raised without an adequate support system. So I'd say focus on your family, and then you can extend yourself outside of that. Everyone has different capacities to do that, but don't overlook your own family. Don't outsource yourself and compromise the safety of your own family for others. I'd say put your family first, in my opinion, and go from there.
Well, thank you so much. I think you touched upon so many, different aspects, and a few of the highlights I would like to kind of, discuss and address is one thing you talked about. Don't have it doesn't matter what the details. I call it the graphics. So some people it's a different style. I work with people who are survivor leaders who might be authors, whether they're authoring their own story or being a voice for people who cannot have a voice yet. You and I both know we work with a lot of people for various reasons they cannot come out. I know like my fellow council members who did not come out. I know that for other reasons, whether it's legal, safety, and many other reasons that they cannot come out. But the fact that there's no need for you to really need to know the graphics, to know the details. The worst thing that we can do to a survivor is not believe them. We need to be there for them and support them. So that's so great that you touch upon that. And I also wanted to touch upon what you talked about parenting, about the support and about this. So I think that's something I would like to dive a little bit more in details in combination with what you mentioned about human trafficking training in schools, and whether it's on a college or elementary or high school level. So tell us more in details, like, what are the barriers that you're going through? I work with people who tell me it's so hard to work with schools, whether there are objections. Tell us what are your experiences?
I'd say it is tricky to navigate schools. I do it on an on-demand basis. I'll get calls from different teachers and parents and some school leaders who or maybe a school police liaison who want a little more help in navigating this space. And it should be a safety issue. And I know because human trafficking can involve, darker details and talking about taboo topics. So there's a barrier right there. And so I guess doing your best to eliminate those barriers and saying addressing the fact that it's important to talk about these issues. I see some schools are really focused on other elements, and this should be a very high priority with schools because it is morphing out of control. And I feel like for schools who are afraid to touch this issue, take the slant of online safety and cybersecurity, because there's so many schemes targeted, especially for youth. Sextortion schemes are on the rise. At the end of last year, the FBI reported an incredible increase in sextortion cases among teenage boys ages 14 to 17. So as parents talking to your kids and just saying, addressing these issues and just letting them know that the communication is so important, and that if someone is making certain claims about you, we love you, we believe you, and we are here to support you. So that those conversations can be life-changing and life-saving for kids. Personally, I know a friend whose son, age 15, was involved in a sextortion scheme, and the perpetrator was asking this teenage boy for images, and then threatened to share them if he didn't send money. And so kids will send gift cards, kids will send money through Amazon. They don't need access to the bank account to meet these demands. Just keep that in mind. And so because he was tricked into sharing, he thought this was a female at his age, but it wasn't. It was an adult male who was the perpetrator of this crime. Because he had a good relationship with his parents, he went to his parents for help. So that when the mom came to me, I commended her for having that safety, that trust, that communication, and just letting her know, like, she's not alone. Her son's not alone. This is a morphine crime. And it's important for parents to be aware, for teenagers to be aware, and have safeguards, because children, social media is a very complex issue. Social media is really just a marketing tool, and it's just a money-making tool for the provider, for Meta. And so it's important to recognize that and recognize what you share, and that your digital footprint matters and can be used against you. So sharing, minimal sharing, having private groups, and knowing who you're interacting with. And my line when I talk to teens is, a friend of a friend is not your friend. So just, I guess that would be my best advice. Less is more. For parents with kids with phones, I would highly recommend holding off on the smartphone as long as possible. A high school age would be better to start than middle school. And there are many fantastic options for other types of phones. There's a Gab phone that younger teens can have for call and texting without internet access, which is a wonderful solution for, you have the ability to communicate with your child. They can call, text, share images, and yet they don't have access to the internet, which is it's the wild, wild west right now.
Yeah, technology can be quite a headache. As a matter of fact, we recently interviewed another guest. We talked about, is this, a tool, or is this a weapon? Because it's definitely a double-edged sword.
It is.
It's great that you talk about sextortion, and while we're talking about technology and online sexual exploitation, can we talk more about? I heard that earlier on you mentioned about cyber slave. These terms might be common for us, but for some of our audience, they might be a first timer or elementary or just getting to learn, like, a good parent or a good community member. What can you educate our community about the cyber side of the crime in terms of cyber slave and other things?
Okay, great. Thanks for asking. So we know human trafficking is not really as it's depicted in the media, because the media shows a lot of kidnappings, and that they do indeed happen. However, the majority of human trafficking happens because of being tricked into trust. So whether it's someone pretending to be a boyfriend and then grooming the individual, and then saying, just have sex with these people, and then we will go and move over here and we're going to get you going on your modeling career. Then this person thinks, okay, I'm just doing this for a little bit, and then we're going to go do this over here. This is my boyfriend, he loves me, I'm doing this for him. But it's really a form of slavery. So then it's just important to understand the serious manipulation that's involved, and that any one person can be targeted. And it is morphing into different types of schemes and scams, and another type of slavery that is going on, and it's going on more so in Asia at this time, is that people are being recruited for a fake job, and the individual moves, and the individual is taken to a boiler room type place, and they are coerced into extorting money from people. So you may see phishing scams, and an email with a link that you're supposed to click, or you get a text with the the UPS package that you ordered is here, click this. Or a text that is, hey, meet me tomorrow for dinner, and oh, hey, it's the wrong number. And then they start engaging and asking personal questions and develop an online friendship. And then, hey, let's so-and-so is a great is amazing with Bitcoin. Do you want to come and learn more about that? And so these different ways to engage people and trick them. So back to the cyber slavery, it is akin to sex slavery. However, it is using this individual as a slave for extorting money from people that they're connecting with online, and they have a quota to meet. And if they don't meet that quota, they are horrible things happen to them. And if they are lured and groomed for this false job that's cyber slavery, and they don't have the technical skills to do that, then they can also be pushed into sex slavery as a backup option if they can't perform the tasks and meet their quota. So it's not pretty, but it's something to be aware of, and something that, as we all are using our devices, just to be aware of these schemes. And if you are a Meta user and you use WhatsApp and you're getting some messaging from an unknown person, report the number, because Meta should be sending a message to people saying this number has been associated with fraudulent activity, beware. So they should be doing that. They aren't at this time, but it should be done. So just don't engage with people you don't know. Just delete the number. You can report and delete it immediately. Just don't engage, because especially as we are post-pandemic, there are still many, many lonely people in the world. And so they're looking for different ways to engage. Online is a very, sadly, very popular way to engage. And so people are just being tricked into these horrific scams. can lose their life savings, can, be pulled into something that's very, very dark. So just being aware and educate, do some research and get with a cyber crimes professional and educate yourself and protect your loved ones too.
Yes, I think it's ongoing stuff. I know people who are studying like cybersecurity, and I feel like the time that they graduate, there will be new technologies, new platforms coming on. So it's we're not at the point of this digital age that we have to constantly educate ourselves, whether it's to, for career development and or for our loved ones. So that's really good advice, and thank you for that. Now, I also want to touch upon back about the trauma healing. We've talked about secondary trauma. We've talked about trauma recovery for survivor leader, etc. I've worked with survivor leaders. I'm talking about them when they were abused, exploited, when they were a child, and now they're at their like 50s, 60s, or even older, and they are still traumatized from that. So for people who have not been through that, they might not have the knowledge and or the experience, and I pray that they don't have to go through that. But for the ones you might never know, what if, let's say I go into a relationship with a man who might have been through similar situations. What are your advices for them, for to start with, what is the physical response to trauma, let's say trigger for, or physical other conditions like chronic diseases, etc., and how do they respond to that?
Oh, wow. That is a huge question. And your trauma is as unique as your fingerprint. So your responses are very, very individual. So it could be as simple as a song that came on and it was the same song during a traumatic experience or abuse. It could be a smell. It could be a weather condition. I mean, there's so many, many, many factors. But just to give you an idea, it's environmental factors that spark a memory. And then it is important to just be able to recognize when that is bubbling up. And I highly recommend talking to a therapist who is a trauma specialist and knows the nervous system and knows the responses to help the individual have a toolbox for navigating this and regulate the nervous system. So it could be breathing techniques can be very helpful. Pressure points can be very helpful. But before you do all that, you have to acknowledge what is coming up, recognize it, and remember, I'm in a safe place now. The person I'm with or the environment I'm in, I am safe. And so recognizing that and then moving forward to acknowledge what's happening in the body and what to do about it to release it. I think exercise is incredibly important. When I talk to therapists and survivors, that often comes up as a tier 1 recommendation. I myself definitely exercise every day. So even if your body can't handle weightlifting, just go for a walk. Try yoga. So exercise is very important because you're moving that energy out of the body. And then I would suggest having a list of what I like to call healthy familiar. So what are some things? What are some things that can help calm you down? Whether it's a favorite sweatshirt or sweater, a really comfortable blanket, your pet. If animals, dogs and horses particularly, can be just amazingly wonderful when people have a mistrust of other humans. Pets can be just incredible. And they're really good at reading people's energy too, and can help calm you down. A favorite drink, like if it's a latte or tea or, your sparkling water mixed with lemonade, whatever you like, And then also if there are specific foods that can help, like eating something citrusy can really spark you back into your body. Something like a lemon or an orange can really ignite your taste buds and just, okay, I'm getting back in my body. I'm going to breathe. I'm comfortable. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go call this safe, trustworthy person, see if they have 10 minutes where I can talk through this. So it's really developing a roadmap for yourself, because there is the common misconception in our world where we want everything just like that. And instantaneously, you have to do the work. And that means slowing down. That means unplugging. Who are you evaluating who you're surrounding yourself with? Because I'm sure many of you are heard, we are who we hang out with. You are what you eat. You are what you consume. So be careful who you're hanging out with. How much are you online and on social media? How much are you exercising? Is someone toxic in your life and causing a lot of stress that's unnecessary? You need to make those decisions and assessments and decide how you want to move forward. So I'd say, as I was saying, people are looking for the magic bullet, and there is no magic bullet. It's just learning how to recognize, like you were talking about, recognize your body's response to the environment and acknowledging this is a memory and I am safe now, and working through how to process it. And that's different for everybody. It might be, like I mentioned, it might be exercise and breath work. It might be, I know people who have found amazing release through acupuncture, and also there are different modalities that therapists use to help, like EMDR. It involves rapid eye movement when you're recalling a memory. That can be very transformative and life-saving. So invest in a weekend of a breath work workshop where you can learn how to breathe, because when you are working, when you have been in a dysregulated area, you're just dysregulated. There's lots of stress going on. There's uncertainty that has its effect, that takes its toll on your body. It affects your breathing. So that can cause different tensions in different parts of your body. So being able to recognize that and knowing how to pace yourself and take breaks and give yourself grace. Just give yourself grace and time. Healing is not this clean, linear experience. It can be very up and down, good days and bad days. And it's just go at your own pace, and learning that self-awareness is very, very important. And making your own toolkit, really. There are limitless resources for finding what works for you, things you can do on a daily basis, things you may do monthly or quarterly. And I'd say just start with one change at a time, just one.
I love it. I love how you relate it to it's as unique as a fingerprint, and it's so different to different one, but also to be able to recognize the progress that you have made. And if it's, a step back, that's okay because you're on the healing journey. I totally love it. I mean, I can relate to it myself because you talked about food. What excites you? Ever since I was little, I would go to the exam, and my secret is to eat chocolate. And that was like when I was very little, many years ago. I doubt people have this healthy revolutionary things talking about this is good for that and that. Although I was born to a grandma who is a doctor who lectures me every day. But today I look into that. Actually, dark chocolate is good for you. And it actually, I forgot what was the research, but I recall that it increases some sort of chemical such as endorphin in the body to really make you happy. So it really matters what really helps you. I might have mentioned to you that I have a book that's going to come out, and I have compiled a list that is useful for my healing journey, from what you mentioned, acupuncture to therapist and to the different methods. This is amazing. I absolutely love how you transitioned from a completely different industry, from media relations, and now passionately working this as an expert. So that being said, thank you so much for all the great work that you do. So before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to leave to our audience, whether it's something we have missed or a call to action?
I'd say a call to action would be, as I had mentioned, there is zero replacement for being an active and engaged parent, but find an organization in your area that's doing good work, do a little bit of research on them, and go there, educate yourself, volunteer, find out different things you can do, whether they're just really, on a smaller scale to a larger scale, and just not to be afraid to dive in, because we are here to serve others. That is why we're here. And so we first have to take care of ourselves and be able to regulate ourselves. And then after that, we can be of service. So I would just keep reiterating that there are so many ways to come alongside this. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, there is a way.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rosie, for what you do. And I'm sure that, later on there's so much more progress and different subjects. We would love to have you keep us posted and maybe even bring you on again to give us the update.
Thanks, Eileen. I would love to. Thank you for all that you do. It's immeasurable.
Thank you. You are watching the MsTexasShow, and we are talking about child sex trafficking, sextortion, and trauma recovery, and so many good topics. We have our special guest, Rosie, here, and we'll see you in our next session.